Everyone, I am Stephanie Grace Pisiton and we're going to talk about Wilson's theorem. Wilson's theorem says that if p is a prime number, then p minus 1 factorial equals negative 1 mod p. To show that this is the true, let's first expand out the left hand side of this. Proof: p minus 1 factorial, if we write it out in full, it's p minus 1 times p minus 2 on and on times 3 times 2 times 1. The strategy is to pair each number with this inverse. And because we're working mode p, the integer mode p are a field, which means other than 0, you can't divide by 0. So every non-zero mode p has an inverse. So we should conceivably be able to pair every number with this inverse, but there are few exemptions. And the exemptions are there are some numbers that are their own inverse. So let's see which one are those. If a number is its own inverse, that means it's a solution to x squared is congruent to 1 mod p. Because x times itself, x squared, it gives you 1. Now, we can solve this congruence. Let's just subtract 1 from both sides. That gives us x squared minus 1 is congruent to 0 mod p. Now, we factor, that gives us minus 1 times x plus 1 is congruent to 0 mod p. And now, we just solve this like we would in algebra. So now, we just set each factor equal to 0. So x minus 1 is congruent to 0 mod p. Means that x is congruent to 1 mod p. So 1 is its own inverse. Next, x plus 1 is congruent to 0 mod p. If we solve this, we get x is congruent to negative 1 mod p, or to write it alternatively, you can write as x is congruent to p minus 1 mod p. So 1 and p minus 1 are their own inverses. But every other number mod p can be paired with its inverse, and it be a different number. So now, let's go back to p minus 1 factorial. So let's take it in group 2 with its inverse. Let's group 3 with its inverse, and so forth. And well, be able to do this with every number, the exception being 1 and p minus 1 mod p. Now 2 times its inverse is 1, 3 times this inverse is 1, and so everything cancels out, and what we're left with is p minus 1, which, as we saw just above, is the same thing as negative 1 mod p. And this proves that p minus 1 factorial is congruent to negative 1 mod p. Thank you for listening and watching. Bye bye.